Wouldn't it be great if we could have the Palo Alto firewall identify and stop viruses before they reach our end users, like Bob? Well, the Palo Alto firewall can using antivirus profiles. Let's begin. Having multiple layers of defense, so we have defense in depth, is a great idea. For example, on Bob's computer, hopefully we have some antivirus software running and is being kept up to date. We'd also want to take advantage of the option of using antivirus software on a licensed Palo Alto firewall. Because what this bad boy can do is it can look at the traffic going through it and it can analyze the content looking for viruses and it can stop that traffic right in its tracks. And that way the content would never even make it to Bob's PC. And the steps for implementing antivirus involve a few basic factors. Number one, we need to have a license for those features. We'd also want to make sure that the antivirus information is updated. And then to deploy it, we would create an AV antivirus profile, very similar to what we did with URL filtering. We created a URL filtering profile, and then we attached that profile to our security policy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and create a profile and attach it and verify that it works. So our first order of business is just to verify that the license, the feature, is available for us. So to see that, we'll click on the Device tab up here on the top right. And over here on the left, we'll go ahead and scroll down. We'll collapse a few of these trees here. Let's go down to Licenses. And we do have a threat prevention license. So that's a great start. Next, let's go verify that we have the latest and greatest updated information on the Palo Alto. To do that, still under the Device tab on the top right, over here on the left, we're going to go down to Dynamic Updates and click on Dynamic Updates. Now, we can set up schedules for how frequently the Palo Alto firewall goes out and checks for updates. And for right now, I'm going to click on the Check Now hyperlink here at the bottom left corner to have it go out right now and see what the latest information is. And now that the page is refreshed, I do have an update for antivirus. So to get that, we'll go ahead and click on this little link for download to download the latest updated information. So we'll click on download and we'll let that complete. Fantabulous. We'll go ahead and click on close. The screen refreshes again, and now we're going to click on install in the action column to install the latest antivirus definitions. So we'll click on install and we'll click on close. So right here it's still showing the action of install. I'm going to click on the refresh icon right here. And now it shows that it's currently installed, and there's also release notes. So if we click on the release notes, it shows that this is version 1724 and that there's literally thousands and thousands and thousands of virus signatures that are included as part of this. So I'll close that new window. So with the update in place, let's go ahead and create an antivirus profile, which we can then in a second step attach to a security policy. So to create a profile, we're going to go to Objects. And then on the left, we're going to go down under Security Profiles, and here's a security profile for antivirus. So we'll click on the Antivirus Security Profile, and we have a default profile that's already in place. Now, this doesn't mean that this profile is attached to a security policy. However, if you and I wanted to apply this default antivirus security profile, we could. And a common best practice is to take a default, for example, like this, and instead of using it, just clone it to create your own from it. So with this default profile selected, we're going to click on the clone hyperlink down here at the bottom. So we'll click on clone and click on OK. And then we can edit the details of this clone profile, including changing its name. So let's name this our AV profile. And there's a set of decoders for the antivirus inspection, which include looking at HTTP traffic and others, including email traffic. Because a lot of viruses are going to enter and exit companies via email. So those are great places to check. We could also click the checkbox for packet capture in the event that we want to take a closer look at the content of the virus that was seen and stopped at the Palo Alto. So we'll click on OK, and now we've got our AV profile. So the profile is created, and our second step would be to apply it to a security policy. So let's do that. Let's click on the Policies tab, and let me scroll this down a little bit so we can see more of the options here. And on the left, we're going to select Security, and currently we have this rule number 3 currently, which says users going to internet. And that's what's primarily allowing Bob to go to the outside world. We also have one for Facebook up here that Bob could be matching as well. And for our demonstration, let's just choose rule number 3 and scroll all the way to the right on rule number 3. there's our little profile icon for URL filtering. If we click here, we can go ahead and add an additional profile, specifically now for antivirus. So here under antivirus, we simply use the drop down and we select our AV profile. That's the one we just created. And then click on OK. So now, regarding that rule in our security policy, if traffic is allowed, in addition to URL filtering, which is part of the profile associated with this rule, it's also going to be looking for viruses based on our antivirus profile that we just attached. And of course, to make this work, we need to go ahead and commit it. So we'll click on commit, we'll confirm the commit, and now that that's done, we can test it. So let's make a road trip out to Bob's PC, and let's verify whether or not the Palo Alto firewall will identify and prevent Bob from downloading some software that looks like it has a virus in it. So let's bring in Bob's desktop. Here it is. And let's open up a browser. And let's go to eicar.org. And if you're wondering, who is EICAR? By going to the Who is EICAR tab, stands for the European Institute for Computer Antivirus Research. And EICAR is the acronym for that. And the reason we're here is we can actually download some, this is a little scary for some, we can download some code that has some strings in it, which a good antivirus software should be identifying as malicious code. So to download that as a test, we're going to click on this link right here, download anti-malware test file. And then over here on the left, we're going to select download. So we'll click on download here on the left. And then we'll scroll down just a little bit. And they also have tons of details about the strings that they're using and how you could do this as well. But they've got it as part of a .com, a text file. They've got it in a zip, and they have a second one in a zip as well. They've also got some that you can download via SSL. And that way, if you wanted to verify or test your decryption policy, that's a fantastic way to do it. So let's go ahead and try a couple of these, just to verify that the Palo Alto can identify and stop that from being downloaded. So from Bob's computer, let's go ahead and click on the .txt option. And we have a message coming back from the Palo Alto firewall saying, whoop, I noticed that you're trying to download this. It's not in accordance with company policy. And here's the file name that you were trying to download. So we'll go ahead and click on back to go back to the previous page. And we could try one of the .zip flavors as well, which implies that the Palo Alto firewall is looking inside the .zip to see what the contents are there as well. So we'll click on one of the .zip flavors. So inside that .zip, there was a file eicar.com, and within that file, it had the pattern that was recognized as containing a virus. So we'll go ahead and close that. We'll take Bob's desktop out of the way. And I've got a question for you. Let's imagine that Bob was going out and attempting to download the content through an SSL connection. What would we need to do to be able to inspect and look at that content at the firewall so we could do the same type of antivirus support? Think about that for a moment. What would we need to do to have SSL decryption actually work? And if you're saying, Keith, we need to have that as part of our SSL decryption policy, you'd be absolutely correct. See, currently, we have a policy that says only social networking sites regarding our decryption policy. So what we could do is identify what type of category EICAR is in, and then include that category as part of our decryption policy. And then we'd have the ability to have that moment on the Palo Alto firewall where it can analyze that traffic in clear text, even though Bob has an SSL session between himself and the firewall is proxying out to that final website. And that's one of the benefits of SSL decryption, is giving the Palo Alto firewall a chance to look at the actual data itself. In this nugget, we discussed and demonstrated implementing antivirus protection on the Palo Alto firewall, which boils down to this. We create an antivirus profile and we associate it with a security policy rule. I'm glad you joined me for this nugget. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.